Chapter 11:20. Oh Ming's words reverberated in the ward. As he spoke, he held Yu Lily's shoulder with his uninjured hand and squeezed it tightly. His voice was as heavy as sandpaper, low and hesitant, as if it took him a lot of courage to ask this question. At that moment, it wasn't just Yu Lily. Even Wen Fenglin could sense Oh Ming's nervousness. Wen Fenglin's eyes darkened when he saw it. Seeing Oh Ming like that, he suddenly felt a little sad. The difference in their love was too great. That was why they were so anxious. Oh Ming didn't feel that secure toward Yu Lily, did he? That was why he had instructed Xiao Ziqing not to tell her. On the one hand, it was because Oh Ming didn't want her to worry. On the other hand, it was because Oh Ming was really worried that she wouldn't want him anymore. Wen Fenglin looked at the young couple in front of him. They were old enough to be his sons and daughters. His heart was filled with complicated emotions. Wasn't it the same for him and them back then? Because of the difference, it was destined to be a tragedy. When Yu Lily heard Oh Ming's question, she turned her head to look at him. Oh Ming's eyes were empty and lifeless. The deep and bright peach blossom eyes of the past were gone. They might never be seen again. Yu Lily felt a lump in her throat. Her eyes were wet. She gently placed her hand on his and said, "Oh Ming, if you hadn't forced me not to die, I would have died many times over." During that time, Yu Lily had been so depressed that she had no desire to live. It was Oh Ming who had pulled her back from the jaws of death. Wen Fenglin didn't know what had happened. When he heard that, he gave Yu Lily a sidelong glance. Looking at Yu Lily's profile, he felt a sense of déjà vu. Yu Lily patted his shoulder comfortingly and said, "You saved the wife. You can't not marry her. Do you understand?" She had said that he couldn't not marry her, not that he couldn't not marry her. It was a difference of one word. The meaning was the same, but the meaning was vastly different. "No matter what, I'm sticking to you. It doesn't matter whether your mother agrees or not. If you want to marry me, then marry me. If you don't, I'll just die again. It's no big deal." Yu Lily's voice was choked with emotion. When she reached the end of her sentence, she started laughing. Yu Lily smiled, but Oh Ming felt a lump in his throat. An unknown emotion sprang up. It was so unfamiliar that it made him feel at a loss. He held her in his arms with one hand. He didn't say a word, but hot tears rolled down his cheeks and fell on her neck. Yu Lily's heart ached. She gently patted his body and asked, "Will you marry me?" "Marry." Oh Ming kissed her cheek gently and said, "It wasn't easy to catch a blind one. I can't let you get away. Get lost." Yu Lily scolded him with a smile, but her heart was warm. Fortunately, even though he couldn't see, he was still Oh Ming. Fortunately, although he couldn't see, he didn't give up. That was enough. Yu Lily gently leaned on his shoulder. Her voice was gentle and firm. "In the days to come, I'll be your eyes." "Okay." Oh Ming gently pushed her away. "Whose clothes are these?" Yu Lily looked down and said, "They belong to Qianqian. I didn't wear a jacket just now. She lent it to me. It doesn't smell as good as yours. Change it." Li Sicheng, say that again. Chapter 11:21. Yu Lily instinctively sniffed Su Qianxi's clothes. It smelled nice. When she saw the serious expression on Oh Ming's face, she took it off. Wen Fenglin looked at them and sighed softly. He said, "Looking at all of you reminds me of my youth. More than 20 years ago, I was a poor artist who was filled with nothing but vengeance and dreams. If I'd had your determination back then, I wouldn't have ended up in this state." Wen Fenglin laughed. "Little girl, based on the current situation, Xiao Qiao won't accept you. Why don't we use another method?" "Method?" Yu Lily looked at Wen Fenglin in surprise. When Oh Ming heard that, he turned his head slightly and asked, "What method?" "A way to make Xiao Qiao beg you to be with Oh Ming," Yu Lily said. Ever since the incident with Shen Luo and Enchanting, Yi Yuyu hadn't returned to the Shen family. From then on, Yi Yuyu's name had never been mentioned in the family. No one had ever mentioned Yi Yuyu. In the dining room, old Mrs. Shen sat at the head of the table. Shen Longyue, Mrs. Shen, Shen Luo, and Shen Manting, and Shen Jilie were seated. There was no one else. Typically, the first day of the Lunar New Year should be bustling with excitement and joy. However, on the first day of the Lunar New Year this year, the atmosphere was indescribably strange. Old Mrs. Shen didn't look too good. No one else dared to pick up their chopsticks. Shen Longyue cleared his throat and said, "Mom, it's time to eat." "I don't want to eat," old Mrs. Shen blurted out like a child. "I don't want to eat. I want to see that girl." "Which girl?" Shen Longyue asked. "Shen Yingyue." When these three words came out, everyone at the table became even more silent. Shen Longyue felt helpless and said, "Mom, that child died a long time ago. Have you forgotten?" "Who said she's dead?" "She's not dead." Old Mrs. Shen was a little angry. She stood up and said, "I'm going to Kingstown. I'm going to Kingstown to see her. Her name isn't Shen Yingyue anymore. It's Yu Lily. I'm going to find her and change her name." "Mom." Shen Longyue had a headache. 2 years ago, you also mistook the 13-year-old granddaughter next door as Shen Yingyue. 5 years ago, you also mistook Miss Gao from the next alley as Shen Yingyue. This time, who is Yu Lily? It's the woman who saved Grandma last time. She's the girl who kept pestering Grandma when she refused to return to the capital. Ahem, she's also O Ming's girlfriend. Hearing that, Shen Longyue frowned. He looked at the old lady and said, "Okay, Mom, you eat first. We'll go after the new year, okay?" "No, I have to ask her to come back for the new year. She has been spending the new year alone for so many years. How can she spend it outside this year? We have to get her back. Grandma, I know where she is. Be a good girl and eat first. I'll ask her to come to the capital to see you later, okay?" Shen Jilie walked over and helped the old lady up. "She almost became my girlfriend. I can get her back. Good job, young man. You're so fast. It would be great if that girl could become our daughter-in-law." Old Mrs. Shen clapped her hands in approval. "Hurry up and call her." Shen Jilie was speechless. Chapter 11:22. Originally, Shen Jilie thought that there might be some truth to what his grandmother said. After all, the old lady's words were sometimes accurate, even if it was less than half true. But, what if? He didn't expect the old lady to give herself away just by testing her. Shen Yingyue was the name that Shen Longyue had prepared for his soon-to-be-born daughter. When the child was still in her mother's belly, everyone in the family called her Yingyue. No one expected that the woman who was about to give birth would suddenly suffer from prenatal depression and become a little crazy. In the old lady's words, Shen Yingyue's mother had committed too many sins and was followed by some unclean things. That was why she became like that. Later, when the due date was almost reached, she ran out and disappeared without a trace. If Yu Lily was really Shen Yingyue, wouldn't she be his half-brother? But Yu Lily was only 25 years old, a year younger than him. How could she be Shen Yingyue? If Shen Yingyue was still alive, she would be the same age as Shen Manting. Shen Luo and was 2 years old, and Shen Jilie was 2 years old. Shen Jilie was disappointed and coaxed, "Then, Grandma, eat first. I'll call her after eating." "Really? Really?" Old Mrs. Shen finally nodded with satisfaction and said, "Okay, then I'll eat first. You keep your promise." Okay. Shen Jilie pushed her back and gave Shen Longyue a look. Shen Longyue immediately understood and put food in the old lady's bowl. After the meal, the old lady was in a good mood. When she was full, she urged Shen Jilie to make the phone call. So, Shen Jilie started delaying. He couldn't stand being urged, so he went out with his friends. Who knew that he could avoid the first day, but he couldn't avoid the second. Before dawn, Shen Jilie's old lady burst into his room. She shouted, "Wake up. Call the girl." -6:30 in the morning. Lily was sleeping soundly when her phone rang. It was Shanjilia. Looking at the caller, Lily turned the phone on silent and threw it under the bed. Then she continued to sleep. When she woke up again, it was already dawn. She picked up the phone from the floor and looked at it. It was already 9 o'clock in the morning. 9 o'clock. Lily immediately woke up and turned on the phone. Sure enough, there were a bunch of missed calls. However, all of them belonged to the capital. None of them belonged to Kingstown. Lily was disappointed. At the same time, another strange call came in. The caller was from the capital. Lily picked up the phone, and a wail could be heard from the other end. "Oh my God, you finally picked up the phone. What's up?" However, what responded to her was the voice of an old lady. She sounded a little excited as she shouted, "Little girl, have you been well? Remember me?" Shanjilia's phone rang with the elderly man's voice. She didn't have to think to know who it was. Lily nodded and asked, "Old madam, what's the matter? Why don't you call me grandma?" Lily was speechless. Because if she called her grandmother, she would climb up the pole and pester her until she couldn't get away. Having experienced it once, Lily did not dare to experience it a second time. He coughed lightly and said, "Are you looking for me?" Chapter 11:23. The old lady's voice was filled with excitement. Although her voice sounded old, her tone and temperament were like that of a child's. Lily had a good impression of the old lady, but she didn't dare to get close to her. She rejected her and said, "It's okay, old madam. I still have things to do in Kingstown." "I see." The old lady sounded a little disappointed. "How about I go to Kingstown to find you? I'll just come and see you, okay?" Lily didn't know what to do with the old lady and said, "See me? How about a video call?" "Okay. Okay." The old lady was excited and shouted, "Gilia, video call. Video call." Shanjilia felt a little helpless and asked Lily, "Is it convenient now?" It's not convenient. I haven't washed my face yet." "Wait a moment." She hung up the phone. When the old lady saw that the phone had been hung up, she was furious and shouted, "How could this be? Did the young lady hang up the phone? How could this be? You have to compensate my young lady." As she spoke, she reached out and slapped Shanjilia twice. "You have to compensate my young lady." Shanjilia took the 2 slaps. His neck shrank back and he shouted, "Grandma, grandma, it hurts." She went to wash her face. "When she's done, she'll have a video call with you. Don't be afraid. She won't run away." When old Mrs. Shan heard that, she glared at him and slapped him again. "Speak properly." Shanjilia covered the place where she had slapped him and wanted to cry. Kingstown. Xiao Ziqing came early in the morning and heard the nurse say that Ming refused to eat or take an injection. This caused Xiao Ziqing to be extremely anxious. As soon as she entered, she saw Ming wrapped in a blanket and curled up on the bed. His back was to the door, and he looked very sad. Xiao Ziqing's heart ached. She walked up and shouted, "Son, you haven't eaten anything since yesterday. Come and eat something with mommy." "I haven't eaten either. I don't want to eat. I don't have an appetite, Mom." Ming's voice was very low. He sounded listless and weak. Xiao Ziqing's heart ached. She went forward and sat on the edge of his bed. "It's okay. Don't worry about it too much. When your injuries are more or less healed, I'll take you out to play, okay?" When Ming heard this, his arms, which were curled up in the quilt, slightly tightened. He didn't feel good. When he was young, whenever Ming threw a tantrum, Xiao Ziqing would use this trick to coax him. Right now, Xiao Ziqing was still treating him like a child. However, Ming did not give any response. He closed his eyes and did not speak. "Ming, get up and eat something. Don't starve." Your health is more important. Don't let your mother worry. Oh Ming's father placed the food he had bought on Oh Ming's table and reached out to grab him. However, Oh Ming remained indifferent. He closed his eyes and muttered, I don't have an appetite. Go home. It's the new year. Don't be unhappy because of me. When Xiao Ziqing heard this, she burst into tears and shouted, You silly child, you're already like this. How are we supposed to be happy? How are we supposed to celebrate the new year? Now, no one could celebrate the new year in peace. Alright, don't cry. The child is in a bad mood, and you're bullying me? Oh Ming's father wiped Xiao Ziqing's eyes and said, Let the child be quiet for a while. When the child thinks things through and is in a better mood, he will naturally get up and eat. Chapter 11:24. Oh Ming's father's words convinced Xiao Ziqing. But after a few hours, Oh Ming was still lying in bed, motionless. She looked at the time. It was already past 11. Xiao Ziqing knew that Oh Ming hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. He was relying on the 4-drip. How could this go on? Xiao Ziqing walked to Oh Ming's bedside and gently pushed him. She shouted, Xiao O, get up and eat. But Oh Ming was still lying in bed, motionless. Just as the 4-drip was finished, the nurse came to help Oh Ming remove the needle. But Oh Ming didn't move. Xiao Ziqing's heart ached. She sat beside her son and covered her mouth, not daring to cry out loud. Her shoulders trembled slightly, but she couldn't hide her heavy breathing. Oh Ming seemed to raise his head and open his eyes. However, there was still nothing in those eyes. There was no light, only emptiness. When Xiao Ziqing saw Oh Ming's eyes, she quickly stood up. She bit her fist and pinched her hand hard, afraid that she would cry out loud. Although Oh Ming's eyes couldn't hear, his hearing was miraculously very good. Hearing this suppressed sob, Oh Ming closed his eyes and said, When can I be discharged? When Xiao Ziqing heard Oh Ming finally speak, she opened her mouth to speak, but when she removed her hand, she sobbed heavily. At the same time, she wanted to speak, but she couldn't. When you're better, you can be discharged. Oh Huijin walked in with a new meal in his hand. He said, Now, the most important thing is for you to get better. No matter what, you have to eat hard. Even if you don't have an appetite, you have to eat a little. When Xiao Ziqing saw her husband, she grabbed his hand and tried to suppress her sobs. She cried like a child. Oh Huijin patted her hand gently. He looked at Oh Ming and said, I know you don't like hospitals, but you can't be discharged yet. There's a high chance that your eyes will recover. Who knows, if you keep acting like this, they might not recover at all. When Oh Ming heard this, he was still indifferent. Oh Huijin said earnestly, Xiao O, you're already 31 years old. After the new year, you'll be 32. You should be more sensible. You're already an adult. Don't make your parents worry. Got it, Oh Ming said without looking up or opening his eyes. You can go back. Don't worry about me. I'll eat when I'm hungry. No, eat it now. Xiao O, eat it now. Mommy is begging you, eat something, okay? Xiao Ziqing opened the box and said, This is Auntie Gui's cooking. Don't you like Auntie Gui's cooking? Here, try some. As he spoke, he handed the bowl to Oh Ming. Annoyed, Oh Ming rolled over in his blanket and said, You guys are so annoying. I don't want to eat. Xiao Ziqing's hand froze in midair. Her son actually thought that she was annoying. Xiao Ziqing felt a stab of pain in her heart. This was the scene when Fenglin saw when he arrived. He sighed inwardly and shouted, Xiao Qiao, the child doesn't want to eat. Let him starve. When Oh Huijin heard this, he looked at Wen Fenglin unhappily and said, Old one, he's not your son. You can do whatever you want, right? Chapter 11:25. Wen Fenglin's voice was filled with helplessness as he replied, I didn't force him to jump out of the car, and I didn't break his bones or blind him. Anyway, the child is already in such a state. The situation can't get any worse, can it? Upon hearing this sarcastic remark, Oh Huijin felt like killing him. His face darkened immediately as he asked, "What do you mean by that?" When Fenglin walked in and said, "Didn't the doctor say that Xiao O's eyes are only temporarily blinded due to blood loss? He has to maintain a cheerful mood in order to recover as quickly as possible. If you keep pushing him like this, it'll be a wonder if he can recover at all." As she spoke, she walked to the side of Oh Ming's bed and sighed. Poor child. If this goes on, when will he recover? Xiao Ziqing and Oh Huijin could read between the lines in Wen Fenglin's words. Didn't this mean that the couple was hypocritical and didn't want their son to recover, so they forced him? But hearing this, Xiao Ziqing was not convinced and said, "How did we force him? Isn't it for his own good? Why does it sound like you're forcing him?" Xiao Ziqing's words were bold and forceful as she spoke with conviction. "You guys can leave. I'm not in a bad mood. I'm just not feeling well," Oh Ming said. His voice sounded muffled under the blanket. Wen Fenglin's eyes were filled with sympathy as he asked, "Was Xian treated the same way by her family all those years ago? That's why I left so early." At the mention of this name, Xiao Ziqing retracted her gaze from Oh Ming. She looked over and said, "Fenglin, what do you mean by this? Xian's past was different from now. We're all doing this for the sake of the child." How could Xiao Ziqing not understand what Wen Fenglin meant? She also knew that the most important factor that could make Oh Ming happy was that young girl. But how could he do that? What if that woman ran away as soon as she heard about Oh Ming's situation? At that time, wouldn't it be even more miserable? When Wen Fenglin heard that, he glanced at Xiao Ziqing from the corner of his eye and smiled. It was just that this smile contained a complicated and indescribable mockery. Xian's parents said the same thing back then. What happened in the end? In the end, Xian still died under the claws of the demon of illness. There was no turning back. The root of all this was her parents. They kept saying that they were doing this for the sake of the child, and Xian's mood worsened day by day. When Xiao Ziqing heard that, she retorted immediately. "Xian's parents don't understand you at all, that's why they are against you." If they did. When she heard that, Xian's parents. Xiao Ziqing was speechless when she heard that. Oh Huijin looked at Wen Fenglin strangely and asked, "Lao Wen, do you know that child?" Wen Fenglin glanced sideways at them and slowly replied, "I don't know them. But, I seem to see myself in them when I was young." How is your behavior any different from Xian's parents back then? You keep saying that it's for the good of the child, but in fact, you don't even know what the child wants. If you continue like this, I'm afraid Xian's ending will be Oh Ming's. Chapter 1126. Oh Huijin and Xiao Ziqing knew exactly what had happened that year. Xian's illness had suddenly acted up, and there was no way to save her. Her young life had passed away. Even after Xian's death, Xian's family refused to let Wen Fenglin see her. However, on the third day after Xian's death, they brought Xian's photo to Wen Fenglin's house to mourn. They claimed that Wen Fenglin had caused their daughter's death. In the end, Wen Fenglin's single mother couldn't bear the pressure and committed suicide. From then on, Wen Fenglin was alone and never married again. Xian's entire family moved and never returned to Kingstown. Wen Fenglin's voice was agitated. His cadence was powerful and resonant. At the end of his speech, Wen Fenglin realized that he had been too emotional. After a pause, he said, "I'm sorry. I got a little emotional." Xiao Ziqing and Oh Huijin were rendered speechless by his outburst. The atmosphere was eerily quiet. "Mom," Oh Ming finally spoke. His voice was a little muffled. "I want to live on." It was only a few words, but it pierced Xiao Ziqing's heart. Tears flowed down her cheeks, and she couldn't hold back her sobs. She nodded her head and said, all right. I'll go get that woman. Wait for me." Forget it. No matter what the woman's attitude was, it was fine as long as her son liked her. Even if that woman wasn't willing to be with Oh Ming, her son shouldn't be so weak. However, if something were to happen to Oh Ming because of them, it would be a huge loss for them. Enrich ending couldn't be allowed to happen to Oh Ming. That kind of tragedy couldn't happen a second time. In the past, she had been Enrich's good friend. Now, she was Oh Ming's mother. Losing a good friend was painful, but losing a son was even more painful. Forget it. What if that woman wasn't what she thought she was? Xiao Ziqing sobbed. She picked up her phone and opened the call log from the day before. After Oh Ming had called her, Xiao Ziqing had saved the number. She dialed the number, but the other end told her that the phone was switched off. Switched off at this time? Oh Huijin walked out from behind and asked, "How is it?" "My phone is off. What should I do?" Xiao Ziqing was so anxious that she burst into tears and shouted, "Lao Oh, did the girl yesterday already know about Oh Ming's situation? That's why she turned off her phone now. She's afraid that we'll look for her, right?" Oh Huijin reached out and hugged her. "Don't overthink things. It's not as terrible as you think. Do you know where she lives? I'll go take a look." "I know." Xiao Ziqing pulled up the address that her secretary had sent her and said, "It's here. Send it to me, I'll go find her." "All right." Xiao Ziqing sent the address to Oh Huijin. Then, she watched as Oh Huijin walked out with his car keys. The 2 meetings he had with that woman had both been unpleasant. What if that woman refused to come or had already run away? What should he do then? Then wouldn't Oh Ming? Xiao Ziqing suddenly felt a bit uneasy. She pulled the corner of her husband's clothes and said, "Old Oh, I think she will ask the nurse about our son's condition. Could it be that the woman has left? That we can't find her?" Oh Huijin said helplessly, "Don't overthink things. That child wouldn't do such a thing." Chapter 11:27. When Xiao Ziqing heard Oh Huijin's words, she tightened her grip on his shirt and said, "I hope so." Oh Huijin gently patted the back of her hand and comforted her. "It'll be fine. Don't worry. I'll bring her over." They could all see how much Oh Ming cared for this girl. Perhaps if she was brought over, Oh Ming would really be able to pull himself together. Regardless of the outcome, they had to give it a try. What if? Xiao Ziqing nodded her head. "Be careful on the road." "All right." Oh Huijin took her hand and turned to leave. He had only taken a few steps when he heard Xiao Ziqing call out from behind, "Wait." Oh Huijin turned his head and saw Xiao Ziqing's conflicted expression. After a moment of hesitation, she said, "Shall I go with you? Stay here and take good care of our son. What if he refuses to come after you treated him like that?" Oh Huijin's words were exactly what Xiao Ziqing was worried about. Looking at her husband's comforting gaze, Xiao Ziqing didn't insist. She nodded her head and watched Oh Huijin leave. Oh Ming had heard Wen Fenglin's name many times from his parents. But, he had never heard his parents talk about Wen Fenglin's story. Oh Ming would never have imagined that Wen Fenglin had such a story behind him. After Oh Huijin and his wife left, the room was silent. After a long time, a calm voice rang out in the ward. "Thank you." The voice was low, but it was filled with sincerity. Wen Fenglin looked at Oh Ming, who was lying on the bed, and said, "I just don't want you to end up like I did in the past. Your parents are my friends, but they're doing what I hated the most." When Xiao Ziqing heard Wen Fenglin's words from outside, she felt a little emotional. She stood at the door and didn't enter. Yu Lily had a video call with the old lady early in the morning. When her phone ran out of battery, she wailed in anguish. When she explained the situation to the old lady, she refused to hang up. After a while, she decided not to charge her phone. She put it aside and pretended to be dead. Yu Lily went back to her room and started drawing her comics. He drew like this for the whole morning. He drew intermittently until it was past 12 o'clock. Only then did he finish one square. Yu Lily hadn't eaten since she got up in the morning, so her stomach was growling. But, at that moment, she wasn't in the mood to eat. Her mind was filled with the conversation she had with Wen Fenglin and Oh Ming in the ward the day before. But, when were they going to start? Ding dong. When the doorbell rang, Yu Lily stood up in reflex, straightened her clothes, and walked toward the door. However, after walking out, he looked at the screen and saw a young girl who looked to be about 17 or 18 years old standing in front of the screen. She turned on the intercom and asked, "Who is this?" "Hello, Miss Yu, can you open the door? A gentleman is looking for you." "Sir? Who is it?" Yu Lily felt a little strange. "Why don't you just look for me? Who is it?" He said his surname was Oh. Oh Ming? But, how was that possible? Where is he? Chapter 11:28. Yu Lily was a little surprised to see the overly young man standing outside. Oh Huijin resembled Oh Ming. If she hadn't known that he was Oh Ming's father, she would have thought he was Oh Ming's brother. Just by looking at their appearances, it was hard to tell the difference. Yu Lily's days only lasted for a moment. She quickly snapped out of it and tapped on the screen to open the door. "Uncle, come in quickly." Oh Huijin hadn't expected such a reaction from Yu Lily. He had thought that she would blame him coldly and ask him what he was doing there. To prevent his wife from being humiliated, Oh Huijin had specifically stopped Xiao Ziqing from coming in. But, it was clear that the girl was not what he had imagined. Oh Huijin's eyes flashed. He was satisfied. He walked in and asked, "Do you live alone?" Yu Lily was stunned. She quickly shook her head and said, "No. No, I live with my colleagues." "Oh. I see." Oh Huijin walked in and asked, "Do you need to change your shoes?" "No, uncle, you can come in directly." "Sit down. Would you like some coffee?" "You're welcome. I'm actually here today because I have something to discuss with you." Oh Huijin walked in, but he had no intention of sitting down. Yu Lily could vaguely guess what it was. She asked, "Is it about Oh Ming?" "Yes." Oh Huijin looked at Yu Lily, paying attention to her expression. "My son was in a car accident yesterday. As you know, the situation isn't looking good." Yu Lily tightened her grip on his hand and asked, "How is he?" "He has temporarily lost his sight due to blood loss," Oh Huijin said. "The doctor said that as long as he is in a good mood, he will have a chance of recovery. But lately, Oh Ming has been in a bad mood." Oh Huijin paused. He realized that Yu Lily didn't look surprised at all. "I hope that you can go see him." "Uncle," Yu Lily interrupted him. "Your wife seems to have a very strong opinion of me. Yesterday, at the door of Oh Ming's ward, Xiao Qiao is also very sorry about what happened yesterday. Yesterday, her words were not very pleasant to hear. But Miss Yu, you have to believe that all parents do everything for the sake of their children. My wife may have some misunderstandings about you. Why don't we go together and talk face to face?" Oh Huijin smiled. His eyes, which were identical to Oh Ming's, looked at Yu Lily with deliberation. She knew that he was also worried that she would hurt Oh Ming. "How was Oh Ming today?" "He's still in the hospital. He's in a bad mood and refuses to eat. He hasn't eaten anything since yesterday and has been relying on an infusion. If this goes on, we're afraid he won't be able to take it." Speaking of his son's situation, Oh Huijin felt a headache coming on. "He wants to see you now. He's been looking for you since yesterday. Let's go together." "What about Oh Ming's mother?" "It was her idea." Oh Huijin knew that she was hesitating and said, she knew that she was being too harsh with her words. "You've been with Oh Ming for so long, so you should know his temper. His mother's temper is exactly the same as his. They both have sharp tongues but soft hearts. They don't have much ill will toward you." Chapter 11:29. Yu Lily was more sensible than Oh Huijin had imagined. At the same time, Oh Huijin was much friendlier than she had imagined. She followed Oh Huijin downstairs and sat in the back seat. Miss you, are you an orphan? Yes, uncle. I heard that you are not only working for Oh Ming's comic company, but you are also drawing comics. Is that right? Yes, uncle. Are you tired? Not at all. Yu Lily smiled. Actually, any job is the same. You just have to get used to it. Drawing was originally just a hobby of mine. Oh Huijin looked at Yu Lily through the rearview mirror and nodded his head. In a satisfied tone, he said, "It's not bad for a young person to have such thoughts, but you don't seem like an orphan. I know quite a few orphans, and they are all extreme and cynical. In comparison, you are much better." The compliment caught Yu Lily off guard and made her a little surprised. Yu Lily blushed. She didn't know how to respond. When Oh Huijin saw this, he smiled and asked, "When did you meet Oh Ming?" "We've known each other for many years. About 7 or 8 years ago, when I had just finished my college entrance examination." As Yu Lily spoke, she subconsciously glanced at Oh Huijin. If Oh Huijin wanted to investigate these matters, he could definitely do so. Just like the last time she had met Xiao Ziqing knew everything about her background. But, why was he asking her now? Could it be that whatever Xiao Ziqing knew, Oh Ming's father didn't? Or could it be that Oh Ming's father just wanted to test him? Oh Huijin acted as if he hadn't noticed Yu Lily's probing gaze. He looked straight ahead and asked, "He went to your school to pursue you?" As Oh Huijin asked the question, he inadvertently saw Yu Lily's awkward expression in the rearview mirror. He immediately said, "I'm just a little curious." After all, Oh Ming has never told his parents about his girlfriend. If you find it inconvenient to answer, you don't have to. It's fine. When Yu Lily heard that, she felt that Oh Huijin's temper was much better than Oh Ming's and his mother's. After thinking about it, Yu Lily said, "In fact, there's nothing to hide. About 7 or 8 years ago, I was admitted to college, but I didn't have any tuition to pay for it. When I was in a hurry to find a job, I was brought to a nightclub by a woman I knew. At that time, I didn't know what kind of job she was taking me to. When I realized it, I wanted to run away, but the manager and that sister refused to let me go. Oh Ming seemed to have seen through me, so he picked me up. Then, he brought me home, helped me pay for my tuition, supported me to go to school. Then, we got together. It was a bit embarrassing to talk about such a past. After all, in the eyes of others, such a matter was undoubtedly very embarrassing. Yu Lily's heart was beating fast, and she felt a little nervous. If it had been Oh Ming's mother, Yu Lily believed that she would definitely have scolded her. "How could you have the nerve to say such a thing? Do you have any shame? But, what about Oh Ming's father? What would he think?" Yu Lily looked up at the rearview mirror. She wanted to see Oh Huijin's reaction. Chapter 1130. It's nothing. I had a rough guess, but it was a little different from what I expected. Oh Huijin drove steadily. "You're 6 years younger than our Oh Ming?" 7. Oh Huijin nodded his head and said, "No wonder Oh Ming's mother always felt that you were lying to her son. You are indeed a little too young." When Yu Lily heard that, she muttered to herself, "Oh Ming's mother isn't just worried that I'll lie to her son. She's worried about me as a person and even despises my identity and background." Yu Lily's heart was as clear as a mirror. She looked at Oh Huijin through the rearview mirror, but she couldn't see anything. This guy probably knew about it too, but at this time, she was still useful to them, so he didn't expose her, right? However, she had to admit that Oh Ming's father's attitude made her feel quite comfortable. They soon arrived at the hospital. Oh Huijin dropped Yu Lily off at the entrance and let her in first. Then, he parked his car. Yu Lily was nervous all the way, and there were countless ideas in her mind. If Oh Ming's mother scolded her again, should she just turn around and leave? If Oh Ming's mother didn't let her in, should she just turn around and leave? Before she reached the door, she saw Xiao Ziqing and Wen Fenglin standing together. As if they had heard the footsteps, the two of them turned around to look at him. When Yu Lily saw them, she grabbed her sleeves and walked over nervously. "Hello, Auntie." "Hello, Uncle Wen." When Feng Lin heard that, a smile broke out on his face. Two deep dimples appeared on his cheeks. He nodded his head and said, "Hello, you're here." Yu Lily nodded her head. She glanced at Xiao Ziqing and said, "He's here." Xiao Ziqing only glanced at him. She didn't say anything, nor did she express her opinion. She nodded in return and stood there silently. Yu Lily felt even more perturbed. What did she mean? When Feng Lin waved at her and said, "Come on in. Have you eaten? There's food inside for two. It's just right for you to eat with O Ming." "Yes." Yu Lily subconsciously glanced at Xiao Ziqing. Xiao Ziqing also looked at her, but she didn't say anything. Yu Lily gently pushed open the door of the ward. After closing the door behind her, she quietly walked over to the bedside. O Ming was wearing a hospital gown and covered with a thick blanket. He was lying on the bed with his back to the door. She deliberately slowed down her pace and walked over to stand in front of him. Before she could speak, O Ming said, "Help me up." Yu Lily put the bag aside and went forward to help him up without saying a word. However, O Ming was heavier than she had imagined. Yu Lily's face turned red, and it took a lot of effort to lift him up. Not a single sound was made during the entire process. O Ming's lips curled up slightly as he said, "Sit down." Yu Lily didn't move. She waved her finger in front of his face. Judging from his reaction, could it be that he already knew who she was? But she didn't make a sound, not even her footsteps. How did he recognize her? O Ming reached out and firmly grasped her hand. He gently pulled it to his lips and kissed it. "Sit down and feed me." Yu Lily retracted her hand and deliberately lowered her voice. "Sir, please conduct yourself with dignity. I'm a nurse here." Chapter 1131. Yu Lily pushed him away and said angrily, "Pervert, why do you want everything?" O Ming chuckled and pulled her over. "Because it's you." Yu Lily lost all her temper after hearing such a joke. O Ming's smile deepened, and his eyes curved into two beautiful half-arcs. However, his eyes still looked a little lifeless and empty. Yu Lily sat down and said with some displeasure, "Do you know who I am?" "My Yu Lily." "Who's yours?" "You." Yu Lily was even more unhappy. She sneered, but her tone was much softer. She looked at his forehead and face wrapped in white gauze and asked, "Does it still hurt?" "It hurts," O Ming answered honestly. "But I'm very hungry. Let's eat first." "Humph." Yu Lily turned around to open a cardboard box and asked, "You really haven't eaten anything since yesterday? Wasn't it supposed to be an act?" Could it be that O Ming was serious? "Yeah." O Ming's eyes were unfocused. He looked down, but his ear was still in Yu Lily's direction. He asked, "Did my father pick you up just now?" "Yeah," Yu Lily answered as she opened the cardboard box and took out the thermos inside. "Did he say anything?" "No, he just asked some questions, such as when we met, how old I am, and so on." "You told him how we met?" Yu Lily paused and took apart the disposable chopsticks. Her eyes dimmed and she said, "I told him the truth." O Ming was a little surprised and asked, "You told him?" "Yeah. I thought you wouldn't say it." After all, the past didn't seem to be very good for Yu Lily. Every time she mentioned it to her friends, Yu Lily would vaguely brush it off. She didn't lie, and she didn't tell the truth. After a long time, O Ming understood what she meant. But, she actually told the truth to his father? That was far beyond O Ming's expectations. Shouldn't he be hiding things from his father and saying nice things instead? Yu Lily came over with the thermos and said, "Even if I don't tell the truth, can't your father check it himself? Tell the truth and you'll be treated leniently. If he didn't tell the truth, it would be even more embarrassing if he was found out." Yu Lily scooped a spoonful of soup and blew on it before saying, "Drink some soup first. It's a little hot." Oh Ming didn't move. Yu Lily brought the spoon to his mouth. Oh Ming felt the warmth, so he opened his mouth slightly and drank the soup. You drink it too. My aunt made it. It's delicious. Yu Lily smelled it and knew it was delicious. She scooped up a spoonful and tasted it. Her eyes lit up. Great. She used to be a chef, specializing in making soup. Later, because my mother liked her skills, my father poached her to be our private chef. She has been doing this for more than 10 years. She suddenly thought of Oh Ming's mother's temper and his father's temper. Did it mean that Oh Ming's mother's temper was spoiled by Oh Ming's father? It was true that Oh Ming's father had a good temper, but it was unexpected that he was so affectionate. Yu Lily's eyes were filled with envy. She scooped another spoonful of soup for him and said, "Aren't you tired of eating it for so many years?" Chapter 1132. She paused in the act of feeding him soup and looked at Oh Ming. She didn't know why, but she felt that Oh Ming's words had a double meaning. Does that mean that he will continue and that he will always be with me? Thinking of that, Yu Lily's lips involuntarily curled up. She placed the soup bowl back on the table and covered it with a lid. She brought the rice over and deliberately said in a serious tone, "Eat." Outside the ward, Oh Ming's parents were looking in through the window. When they saw the smile on Yu Lily's face, they were both experienced and had already grasped Yu Lily's emotions. From the looks of it, this girl really did have feelings for Oh Ming. Moreover, this feeling was much deeper than the two of them had imagined. Seeing that Oh Ming was finally willing to eat, Xiao Ziqing's eyes welled up. At the same time, she felt an indescribable sense of jealousy. I'm Oh Ming's mother who raised him for more than 30 years. Why would Oh Ming listen to her and not me? When Oh Huijin heard Xiao Ziqing's words, he couldn't help but laugh. He gently hooked his arm around her and said, "Children have their own blessings. Your son's taste has always been pickier than mine since he was young. It's not like you didn't know that." Xiao Ziqing was about to reply when she suddenly thought of something. She turned to look at her husband and said with some dissatisfaction, "Are you saying that I'm not as good as that girl?" "No, don't overthink it." Oh Huijin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "When did I say that?" "You didn't. You clearly said that our son's taste was more picky than yours. Are you saying that I'm not as good as her?" Xiao Ziqing reached out and pinched Oh Huijin's waist. No. If I had good taste back then, why wouldn't I have married you? I only realized how good you were after we got married. After all these years, there hasn't been a day that I haven't regretted it. How could I have been so blind back then? Xiao Ziqing was overjoyed when she heard that. She snorted and said, "Old man, your son is already so big. Take it easy." With that, she turned and walked away. Oh Huijin immediately followed. "Where are you going?" "To eat. Aren't you hungry?" In other words, she was handing her son over completely to Yu Lily. Oh Huijin looked at her back and felt a little helpless. Then, as if remembering something, he asked, "Where's Lao Wen?" "I don't know. Give him a call." Xiao Ziqing continued walking without stopping. Oh Huijin picked up his phone to call Wen Fenglin, but no one picked up. Seeing that Xiao Ziqing had already walked far away, Oh Huijin hurried after her. At the same time, in the opposite direction behind them, there was a stairwell with an unlatched door. The melodious and urgent ringtone of a cell phone rang incessantly. The ringtone sounded muffled, as if it was stuck in his pocket. Wen Fenglin was lying on the ground. His eyes were half closed, and his hand was stretched out over his head. A small section of the cigarette was still burning, giving off smoke. When he heard the ringtone, Wen Fenglin tried his best to reach for his phone, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull it out. When he finally took out his phone, the ringtone had abruptly stopped. Wen Fenglin unlocked the phone with his fingerprint. Just as he was about to call Oh Huijin back, another call came in. He pressed the button and ended the call. Wen Fenglin suddenly felt like laughing, but his consciousness was becoming more and more blurry. He opened his mouth, but all that came out was a mosquito-like cry for help. Help, dash. Chapter 1133. In the ward, Yu Lily was feeding Oh Ming. At the same time, she was eating from a lunchbox. As she ate, she asked, "Are you full? I want to drink soup." Oh Ming's tone was like a child talking to an adult. He gently placed his hand on her leg to prevent her from running away and not being able to feel her presence. Yu Lily moved his hand away and said, "I'll go get it." She turned around and returned with the soup bowl. She found Oh Ming listening to her movements with his ear to the side. "What are you doing?" Yu Lily sat back on the bed. "I'm trying to see if I can hear what you're doing. I've heard that there's a blind man who's really amazing. Not only can he hear what his wife is doing, but he also knows exactly where she is and does whatever he wants." "Wife," Yu Lily smiled and said, "I'm afraid he won't be able to see for many years. Do you want to get better? Don't speak. I'll listen for a while." Oh Ming reached out with his uninjured hand. Yu Lily saw his hand reach out, and her eyes darkened. She took 2 steps forward and pushed the hem of her jacket forward. Hearing the faint sound in front of him, Oh Ming reached out and firmly grasped the hem of Yu Lily's jacket. The hem of the down jacket felt good to the touch. Oh Ming's expression was one of triumph. "See, I'm still very amazing. Even if I can't see in the future, I can still find you with my hearing." Yu Lily's heart ached. She smiled and said, "Really? Why don't you try again later?" Oh Ming didn't let go of the hem of her jacket. He pulled her gently and said, "Yu Lily, I don't know what my father told you, but the doctor said that the worst case scenario is that I might not be able to see for the rest of my life. It's very likely that I'll be blind and never see you again. Are you sure you still want to be with me?" This was the most realistic problem, and it was also the problem that Oh Ming had been most worried about for the past 2 days. When Yu Lily heard that, she looked at his face. There wasn't much expression on Oh Ming's face. His eyes were empty and lifeless. He was looking down and slightly tilting his head to listen. His hand gripped the hem of her clothes tightly. Yu Lily reached out and gently placed her hand on his. When she was about to speak, she heard him say, "I have already prepared for the worst. I don't want to hide it from you, nor do I want to lie to you. Yu Lily, it is very likely that I will lose my ability to work in the future. My father is getting old. In the future, he might not be as glorious as he was today. Is that okay?" Hearing that, Yu Lily tightened her grip on him. She reached out her hand angrily and pressed lightly on the place where his bone was fractured. "Ah!" Oh Ming screamed in pain and frowned. "Does it hurt?" "It hurts." Oh Ming shouted. "Serves you right." Yu Lily pressed it again. "What do you mean? Do you think I'm with you just because you have money?" When Oh Ming heard that, he felt a little suffocated. Even if it wasn't the whole reason, it was probably a large part of the reason. Chapter 1134. Oh. Oh Ming smiled. "What kind of performance are you talking about?" Yu Lily replied, "What kind of thoughts are you having in your head?" "I didn't say anything. What are you thinking about?" Oh Ming looked innocent. He touched his chin with a troubled expression and said, "It's not convenient for me to do it now. Why don't I lie down and you do it yourself?" Yu Lily's face reddened. She reached out and pinched his uninjured arm. "We're in the hospital," she scolded. Oh Ming laughed out loud when he heard that. The atmosphere in the ward was so good that happiness was fermenting. At the same time, the door of the ward was knocked twice and opened. A young nurse walked in. When she saw Yu Lily, she said, "Miss, there's an uncle with his hair tied up. He looks to be in his 50s. Is he your family member?" "His hair tied up? In his 50s? Wen Fenglin? What's wrong?" "This uncle fainted in the stairwell due to coronary heart disease. Our medical staff found him and sent him for emergency treatment. If he's your family member, please come over." Fainted? Yu Lily was shocked. She put the soup bowl back and asked, "How is he now?" "I'm not too sure." "Come with me." "Oh, okay. I'll be right back." Yu Lily put the things back and wanted to walk away, but she found that Oh Ming was holding her clothes tightly. Yu Lily felt helpless. She removed Oh Ming's hand and coaxed him in a low voice, "I'll come back later. I'm going to see Uncle Wen." "Are you coaxing a child?" Oh Ming was even more unhappy, but he still let go of her clothes and said, "Come back soon. I haven't had any soup." "Okay." Yu Lily kissed him gently on the cheek and released him. Oh Ming wasn't willing to let her go. He grabbed her hand and said, "Kiss. I'm going to see Uncle Wen." "Kiss." Oh Ming's words were childish. He looked like he was acting coquettishly. Yu Lily glanced at the nurse, and her cheeks heated up. She quickly lowered her head and planted a kiss on Oh Ming's lips before walking out. The nurse looked at Yu Lily ambiguously, and her cheeks became hotter and hotter. He pretended that he hadn't seen anything and followed her in the direction of Wen Fenglin with a calm demeanor. When they arrived, they learned that Wen Fenglin's condition wasn't too optimistic. In the emergency room, the doctors and nurses were busy. Yu Lily paced back and forth in front of the emergency room, and a nurse came up to her. "This is the patient's cell phone. You can call the other family members. This matter can be big or small. We can't guarantee anything." Yu Lily took it and nodded her head. "Thank you." As soon as Yu Lily got the phone, she recognized it at a glance. It was his other phone. The nurse's words could not be clearer. With Wen Fenglin's current condition, it would be a miracle if he could be saved. If he couldn't be saved, it was better to inform his family. Yu Lily opened the phone and found that there was no password at all. It was an old-fashioned phone, probably a popular model 2 or 3 years ago. It was popular for a period of time, but it has long since been discontinued. She hadn't expected Wen Fenglin to be so nostalgic. When she opened the phone, she realized that it was lagging. She opened the contact list and saw that there were quite a number of calls. There were at least 40 to 50 calls. However, there wasn't a single name or note that she suspected belonged to his family. Chapter 1135. There was only one symbol on the last number. It was the symbol of a house. Yu Lily recognized the symbol. It meant home. She unlocked the phone and dialed the number. The caller was from a small city in Kang province. It wasn't far from the provincial capital, Kingstown. Yu Lily had stayed there for a period of time when she was traveling. It was a nice little city. The call was quickly answered by an old woman. She sounded shaky and excited. She shouted, "Hello, Lao Wu. Is this me, Lao Wu? Have you come back from home?" She was speaking in Cantonese. Yu Lily understood. Lao Wu? Was Wen Fenglin the 5th child in his family? Yu Lily cleared her throat and asked, "Hello, do you know Wen Fenglin? Are you from the side? Do you know how to use my Lao Wu's phone to call my house?" I'm Uncle Wen's friend. My name is Yu Lily. May I know how you are related to Uncle Wen?" "Hold on. I'll get my grandson to talk to you," the old woman shouted. As the old woman spoke, she shouted, "Ah Joe, come and answer the phone. It's your 5th uncle." Yu Lily could clearly hear footsteps coming from the other end of the line. A young man's voice could be heard. "Hello, 5th uncle?" The voice sounded like he was in his mid-20s. "Very young. I'm not 5th uncle. Do you know Wen Fenglin?" "He's 5th uncle. We're in Kingstown now, and he's in the hospital. He's suffering from coronary heart disease. Would you like to come over?" There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. The old woman asked, "Is that okay?" The young man's voice could be heard again. "Did my uncle ask you to make this call?" "No, he's in the emergency room," Yu Lily said. "I thought I should call his family, so I got it." "Which hospital is it?" I'll head over right away. What's your relationship with my uncle? We can be considered friends, all right. Thank you for informing us. Give me the address. I'll jot it down. Lily gave the address, and the call was hung up. About 10 minutes later, the door to the emergency room was opened. When the doctors and nurses came out, Lily rushed forward and asked, "How is it?" Fortunately, it was a close shave, but he still needs to be observed. He needs to stay in the ICU. Go pay the fee. She breathed a sigh of relief and nodded. After paying the bill, Wen Fenglin's phone started to vibrate. But this time, it was a cell phone number. Sure enough, it was the young man from before. "Hello, Mississippi. My name is Wen Hejio. What's your phone number? Let me make a note to not use my uncle's phone to contact you later. I'm afraid he'll blame you." "Why?" Lily was a little surprised, but she quickly thought of something and said, "Uncle Wen has been rescued now. The doctor said it was a close shave." Wen Hejio also seemed relieved and said, "That's good. I'll be there in about an hour. Don't tell my uncle that I'm here. Delete the call history." "Thank you." Lily was dumbfounded. They were both surnamed Wen. Wen Hejio must really be Wen Fenglin's nephew, right? Why was he acting like a thief? Chapter 1136. From his tone, it was clear that he was worried. It couldn't be Wen Fenglin's enemy. Lily thought about it and deleted the record as she was told. When she arrived at Wen Fenglin's ward, she walked in. His heartbeat was normal, but his face was pale. His eyes were closed, and he looked like he was in a coma. Lily placed her phone on the side of his bed. Just as she put it down, she heard the phone vibrate. The sound was particularly abrupt in the silence. It gave Lily a fright. She quickly picked up the phone. When she saw the caller, she answered and called out, "Uncle O." When O Huijin heard Lily's voice, he was equally surprised. He asked, "Why is it you? Where's Lao Wen?" "Uncle Wen just fainted in the stairwell. He was sent to the ER and just came out." O Huijin's heart skipped a beat. "How did this happen? What's the situation now?" "Not too bad. It was a close shave," Lily said. "Which room?" After Lily gave the room number, she hung up the phone. When she turned her head, she saw Wen Fenglin looking at her. Lily was shocked. She glanced down at the cell phone in her hand and smiled sheepishly. With a guilty conscience, she said, "It's O Ming's father. He's asking about your situation." Lily was shocked. Wen Fenglin nodded his head slightly and asked in a small voice, "Did you save me?" "No, the doctor found you when he passed by, so he sent you to the ER. I was called over by the nurse later." Lily felt a little uneasy as she said, "Uncle Wen, are you not on good terms with your family?" When Wen Fenglin heard that, he looked at Lily strangely and said, "I don't have any family. Have you forgotten? Everyone calls me a poor wandering artist." With that, Wen Fenglin laughed. His white hair was spread across the pillow. Without his glasses, his eyes were small. On his pale face, 2 deep dimples appeared on both sides of his cheeks. Lily felt a little awkward. It turned out that Uncle Wen's relationship with his family wasn't as simple as that. From the looks of it, she had done something bad out of good intentions. A very, very, very bad thing. What should I do? With a strange expression on her face, Lily looked up at Wen Fenglin and said, "Uncle Wen, leniency to those who confess, severity to those who resist." Lily was about to confess when her phone suddenly rang. Lily cursed inwardly. She picked up the phone and looked at it. The caller ID was indeed from Zhuang City. In other words, it belonged to Wen Fenglin's nephew. Lily was a little embarrassed and said, "I'll go take a call." As he spoke, he ran out of the door and closed the door before answering the call. "Miss you, which ward is it?" "I'll go there in a moment." "No need, no need." You don't have to come over. Yu Lily wished she could strangle herself to death. Mr. Wen, can you tell me what happened between your family and Uncle Wen? Or is there any history between them? After a moment of silence, Wen Hezhou said, Do you mean that you don't want me to see my uncle? Chapter 1137. Wen Hezhou did not speak. She could hear the sound of cars honking around them. Yu Lily felt that she was a scapegoat. Feeling a little guilty and nervous, she said, You'd better not come. This is my fault. I'm sorry. Let's just pretend that it never happened. Actually, there's a reason for this. Why don't we meet up and talk about it, then you can decide whether or not to let me see my uncle. What do you think? Wen Hezhou sounded like he was discussing it, but his tone made it sound like Yu Lily would definitely agree to it. This made Yu Lily a little uncomfortable. Indeed, she was very curious as to why Wen Fenglin had become a wandering artist. She was also very curious as to why he had such a huge feud with his family. But that wouldn't do. Yu Lily had no right to do that. At most, she was just a stranger who had met Wen Fenglin by chance. Furthermore, Wen Fenglin had helped her a lot. If Wen Fenglin didn't want to see Wen Hezhou at all and was lured there by her, now this was awkward. Yu Lily was perturbed. At that moment, she was filled with remorse. She immediately rejected the offer and said, Forget it, Mr. Wen. I'm not interested. Uncle Wen is very good to me. I can't cheat him. Miss you, you're helping him. Wen Hezhou sounded a little helpless as she said, Or you could tell him that his father has Alzheimer's disease and talks about him every day. I'm afraid he doesn't have much time left. I hope he can go back and see the old man. The determination in Yu Lily's heart suddenly wavered. She couldn't help but ask, What exactly happened? My father also misses him very much. Fifth uncle is at our house. Hey, let's meet and talk. Fifth uncle has a misunderstanding with our family, and it's hard to explain it in a short time. If you don't want to see me in the hospital, then we can meet at a coffee shop or somewhere else to sit down and talk. No. I'm sorry. I was too reckless. You should go back. Goodbye. Yu Lily hung up the phone and walked downstairs. She instructed the receptionist not to reveal Wen Fenglin's room number before returning to Wen Fenglin's room. Yu Lily felt guilty and anxious. He suddenly felt as if he had done something unforgivable. Initially, since Wen Fenglin was undergoing emergency treatment, it was out of goodwill to inform his family. After all, fainting from coronary heart disease could be a serious matter. Unexpectedly, there was such a layer in between. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have listened to that nurse. What should I do? Feeling apprehensive, he pushed open the door and walked in. Wen Fenglin looked over at the same time. Yu Lily was a little nervous and asked, Do you want some water? Are you hungry? Wen Fenglin shook his head and beckoned her over. Come here for a moment. She walked over and sat down on the stool beside the bed. Why are you suddenly asking about my family? Wen Fenglin asked. Yu Lily looked away guiltily and said, I'm just curious, haha. Wen Fenglin chuckled. Actually, I seem to have said something to someone just now. Was it you? What did he say? Don't call me family. Wen Fenglin looked at Yu Lily and sighed. Is that you? Chapter 1138. Wen Fenglin laughed and asked, Can you pour me a glass of water? Yu Lily quickly got up and poured him a glass of warm water. She put it on the table and carefully helped him up. I'll do it myself. Wen Fenglin waved his hand and sat up. He reached out to take the water from Yu Lily. Yu Lily reached over and handed the cup to him, but she didn't dare to move her hand away. She was afraid that the water on the cup would spill. Fortunately, Wen Fenglin's hand was still steady. After he finished drinking, he laughed and said, Don't worry, it's not a big deal. Go back to O Ming's side. I'll sleep for a while. So, after changing the topic, he just had to chase her away. Yu Lily was well aware of that. She tossed the cup aside and nodded her head. On the way back to O Ming's ward, she ran into O Huijin and his wife. After greeting them, she told them about Wen Fenglin's condition before returning to O Ming's room. The sky began to darken. Today was the second day of the new year. There were not many people in the hospital, and the surroundings seemed a little empty. When she pushed open the door of the ward, O Ming was not in bed. Yu Lily was shocked and called out, "O Ming?" O Ming's voice didn't come out. Instead, there was the sound of something falling to the ground. Yu Lily followed the sound and saw that it was coming from the bathroom in the ward. Yu Lily quickly walked over and pushed the bathroom door open. "Oh!" she yelled. O Ming was next to the washstand. His uninjured hand touched the washstand. On the floor, a jar of hand sanitizer fell. O Ming pursed his lips when he heard Yu Lily's voice. "What are you doing here? Wash your hands." "I'm going to the bathroom," O Ming said. His hand, which was still covered in bubbles, reached out to touch Yu Lily. But he didn't know where the toilet was, so he could only stand there and wash his hands. He found a toothbrush, rinsed his mouth, and brushed his teeth. He hadn't expected Yu Lily to return so soon. "Are you going to pee here?" Yu Lily didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "This is the sink. Come, I'll take you there." O Ming felt a little embarrassed. He coughed and said, "Wait a minute, my clothes." Yu Lily looked down at his clothes and found that the front of his body was wet. He was wearing a thin hospital gown, and he didn't even have a coat on. Like a playful child, O Ming seemed to be at a loss at the moment. Yu Lily looked up and saw his somewhat embarrassed face. Her heart was inexplicably sour. Taking off the down jacket, Yu Lily gently placed it on his shoulder and said, "Go to the bathroom first, then change your clothes." It would be good if he didn't hold it in. It seemed that O Ming hadn't relieved himself yet. Yu Lily helped him to the bathroom. Just as she was about to help him take off his pants, he pushed her hand away. Pursing his lips, he said, "I'll do it myself." "Turn around." Yu Lily's eyes became hot. After a sound of agreement, she turned her back to him and didn't look at him. It was dark in front of O Ming. He bent down and reached out to confirm the position of the toilet bowl before he began to remove it. Unbeknownst to him, Yu Lily, who was behind him, saw his jerky and confused movements, and her eyes were already red. Yu Lily helped him to the sink. After washing his hands, she brought him back to the side of the bed. Their movements were careful, and no one spoke first. Chapter 1139. But O Ming's hand was a little inconvenient. Yu Lily helped him change his pants first, then spent a lot of effort to help him change his shirt. O Ming didn't say a word. After Yu Lily helped him fasten the last button, he pulled her into his arms with his uninjured arm. Yu Lily was stunned, but very quickly, she obediently leaned on his shoulder and gently hugged him. "Yu Lily." O Ming's voice was a little hoarse, and he sounded a little depressed. Yu Lily's heart trembled slightly. She hugged him tightly and answered, "Yeah, I'm here. I want to be discharged from the hospital. Go and find my parents." "Discharged? How can you be discharged at this time?" Yu Lily looked at his hand in a cast and frowned. "It's okay. It's not a big problem. Besides, we have a family doctor at home. We can invite him over when the time comes." O Ming gently pushed her away and said, "Go." Yu Lily looked at him and knew that he must be in a very bad mood. But this was the first time that Yu Lily had seen O Ming like this. He was a little depressed and a little frustrated. He was no longer confident, no longer flamboyant, and even no longer looked calm. This matter had a great impact on him. What O Ming had lost was not just his sight. Yu Lily's heart seemed to be blocked by something. She looked at him deeply, nodded faintly, turned around, and walked toward the door. But she didn't go out. Instead, she slowly stepped back and faced O Ming. After taking a few steps, she didn't move anymore. Oh Ming seemed to listen for a while. When he found that there was no sound, his whole body relaxed. He touched the back of his neck and moved back with one hand. He reached out to touch the bedside table, but as soon as his hand touched it, he touched a thermos flask. It suddenly rolled down and made a loud sound in a low voice. Lily subconsciously wanted to go forward, but reason quickly stopped her, and she abruptly stopped in her tracks. Oh Ming retracted his hand slightly and quickly touched the bedside table again. What is he looking for? Lily wanted to ask him, but she didn't dare to go forward. But, after Oh Ming searched around and didn't find what he was looking for, he retracted his hand. Feeling a little frustrated, he lay on the bed. Turning around, with his back to the door, Lily couldn't see his expression. What was he trying to do? Lily was so curious that she wanted to ask him to solve the problem and help him find it, but she was worried that she would hurt his feelings. Lily stood in the same spot for a long time. Just as she was about to turn around and walk out, she heard the sound of heavy breathing. He turned his head and saw that the body wrapped in the white bedsheet was trembling slightly. The range was not large, but it did exist. Is he crying? When Lily realized this, she felt as if something had hit her heart hard, and the pain reached her eyes. The warm liquid came up, and Lily didn't dare to stay. She gently walked out, opened and closed the door, and her movements were very, very gentle. However, on the bed, Oh Ming's back stiffened. He closed his eyes and didn't move. She walked out and headed straight for Wen Fenglin's ward. Oh Huijin and Xiao Ziqing were both there. When they saw Lily enter, they were a little surprised. Lily looked around and politely greeted, "Uncle, Auntie." Chapter 1140. Wen Fenglin's complexion and spirits were much better than before. He had tied up his hair and put on his glasses. He looked no different from his usual self. He had a clean demeanor and a warm smile. Wen Fenglin replied, "I'm much better. Thank you, Mississippi. How is Oh Ming?" Lily recalled how Oh Ming had been trembling with his back turned to her. Her heart ached, and her eyes burned. She nodded her head and replied, "He's fine." She looked up at Oh Huijin and his wife and said, "Uncle and Auntie, Oh Ming wishes to be discharged from the hospital and return home to recuperate." "No." Xiao Ziqing panicked. "How can he do that? His injuries are serious. The doctors and nurses in the hospital have to take care of him at all times. If he stays at home, what if something happens?" "That won't happen," Lily shook her head. Her eyelids drooped. She was in low spirits. Actually, the most important factor in recuperating is one's mood. There are too many restrictions in the hospital. I wish to bring him home to recuperate. Perhaps. As she spoke, her eyes reddened even more. She looked up and smiled. Didn't the doctor say that Oh Ming's eyes might recover at any time? If we cheer him up, he might recover even faster. Judging from the way Lily spoke and the tone of her voice, it was clear that she had treated Oh Ming as one of her own. That tone of voice made Xiao Ziqing very unhappy. But, it was undeniable that what Lily had said made sense. Oh Huijin nodded his head and said, "All right. In that case, come to our house. Miss you, if it's possible, I hope that you can move in with us. Our son likes you very much and is very reliant on you. Is that all right?" Although Oh Huijin's words were a question, his tone didn't imply it at all. When Xiao Ziqing heard that, she immediately replied, "Don't worry. We'll pay you, Auntie." Lily's words were almost forced out of her mouth. She clenched her fists and said, "I think you might have misunderstood. I want to be with Oh Ming because I like him. I'm willing to be with him. Similarly, it doesn't matter if he's blind or disabled. I'll take care of him. To put it bluntly, if he dies in a car accident, I'll die with him." Oh Huijing felt that Xiao Ziqing's words were hurtful, but she hadn't expected Lily to say them. Live and die together? Oh Huijing found it hard to believe. As for Xiao Ziqing, she found it extremely laughable. How long has it been since they started talking about life and death? Although Qiao Ziqing had such thoughts in her heart, she did not voice them out. When Yu Lily saw the expression on Qiao Ziqing's face, she could guess what was going on. Yu Lily felt a little angry, but at this critical juncture, she couldn't lose her temper. Looking at Qiao Ziqing, she forced a smile and said, "The reason is simple. I love him, I want to marry him, I want to be with him, that's all." "Miss you." Huajin was just about to speak up for Qiao Ziqing when Yu Lily interrupted him. "Uncle, I've conveyed the message. I agree with Ming's suggestion. I'll be discharged first and recuperate. That's more important than anything else. I'll be leaving first. Goodbye, Uncle Wen." Wen Fenglin smiled and nodded his head. "Goodbye." Chapter 1141. The more Qiao Ziqing thought about it, the angrier she got. She muttered to herself, if she becomes a member of the O family, this little bit of remuneration will be nothing. Humph. Qiao Ziqing crossed her arms as she watched Yu Lily leave. This kind of woman is too scheming. Our son has been fooled by her. When Huajin heard that, he looked at his wife helplessly. At the same time, he felt a headache coming on. He said, "Xiao Qiao, don't think so badly of human nature. That girl isn't the kind of person you think she is." "How do you know?" Qiao Ziqing turned her head and looked at him with displeasure. "You don't know? That kind of girl is what the internet calls a green tea bitch. She knows how to act and has tricks up her sleeve. She's ambitious and seduces many men with her beauty. Lao, don't tell me you've been attracted to her as well." Huajin was exasperated. "You're not allowed to watch television next time. If I catch you, I'll smash the television. You're not allowed to browse Weibo or use your phone either. I'll smash it every time you watch it." Qiao Ziqing pouted. She hugged Huajin's arm and said, "Why? It's not my fault. I'm just saying it in front of you. I won't say it in front of her. Xiao Qiao, that girl might not be as bad as you think she is. You can try to understand her. I talked to her briefly today, and I realized that she has an extraordinary temperament." Huajin looked at his wife helplessly. "Don't think too badly of human nature." "Don't think too well of human nature either," Qiao Ziqing retorted. "It's always good to be on your guard." Wen Fenglin listened to the conversation between the couple and chuckled. The two dimples on his face made him look especially amiable. He said, "I think what old O said is right. This young lady has a kind heart." Qiao Ziqing was displeased. She asked unhappily, "Why are all of you speaking up for her?" "You know Ming's situation very well," Wen Fenglin said. "It's rare to have such a girl by his side. Besides, Xiao O likes this girl. As elders, we should do what's best for our children. No matter what, we have to make Ming feel better first. We can talk about the rest later." Wen Fenglin looked at Qiao Ziqing with the same helplessness in his eyes. "Xiao Qiao, you haven't changed at all. You always like to think the worst of people." Qiao Ziqing didn't say a word, but it was obvious that she was unhappy. She retorted, "This is called nipping the problem in the bud." Wen Fenglin smiled and didn't say another word. He subconsciously glanced at the door, and there was a faint meaning in the depths of his eyes. When Yu Lily returned to Ming's ward, she found that he was still in the same position. She gently walked up to him and walked around him. Ming was already asleep, breathing evenly. His head was wrapped in gauze, and only his face was exposed. Yu Lily sat in front of him and looked at his sleeping face. She reached out to tuck him in. Just as she was about to remove her hand, Ming raised his hand and gently placed it on hers. Without opening his eyes, Ming asked, "What was the result?" "I don't know." Yu Lily gently pulled her hand back. "I didn't wait for their reply before I came back." "Did my mom scold you again?" "No. However, it was even worse than being scolded. Chapter 1142. Oh Ming didn't ask any more questions. He reached out and gently placed his hand on hers. Today is the second day of the new year, right? Yeah. It was indeed the second day of the new year. It was supposed to be a day for family reunion. For an orphan without a home, it was no different from any other day. It must be very lively outside. I was going to take you to Kingstown Tower to play, but I can't go now. Oh Ming felt a little regretful. It's okay. If I can't make it this year, I'll go next year. There will always be time. Oh Ming felt even more regretful. It wasn't as simple as just going there to play. He had originally planned to propose. At the busiest time of the year, it would become the most anticipated proposal ceremony. When the Bureau of Civil Affairs was back at work, he would go and get the marriage certificate. But it was impossible to realize now. He couldn't see anything with his eyes. He couldn't even see her face. What right did he have to promise her a future? His heart ached a little. He released Yu Lily's hand with his uninjured hand and was about to prop himself up to sit up. Yu Lily quickly helped him up and said, "Slow down." Oh Ming's movements were the same, but with Yu Lily's help, it was much easier. He sat up straight and lifted the blanket. He put his legs down and said, "Take me out for a walk." "Sure," Yu Lily replied. "Wait a moment." She turned around and picked up the coat hanging on the coat rack. She helped Oh Ming put it on and said, "I'll help you put it on. Raise your hand." Oh Ming raised his hand and put it through the sleeves. When he finally put the coat on, Yu Lily looked at his lower body. The hospital gown was a little thin. Would it be cold to just wear it like that? "I'll find you a pair of pants." Yu Lily turned around to open the closet. Oh Ming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He asked, "Are my pants dirty?" "It's windy outside. I'm afraid of the cold." "It's okay. Let's go. My body isn't that bad." Oh Ming stood up and tugged at his clothes. "Hold my hand." Yu Lily thought about it and agreed. Oh Ming's pants weren't that thick. Along the way, the wind grew stronger and stronger. Yu Lily took him to the hospital garden, where children were playing. At the same time, the elderly and the hospitalized disabled were walking and chatting in the park. She helped him to a quiet and secluded bench to sit down. The wind today was a little strong and chilly. Not far to the left, there was a little girl who looked about 3 or 4 years old. She was wearing a pink jumpsuit and looked round. She was holding a doll in her hands and ran to the right. Her laughter was a little shrill, but her smile was bright and lively. She shouted, "I'm your big sister, you can't chase me." Right behind that little girl, another little girl wearing the same clothes caught up and shouted, "I'm the elder sister, you're the younger sister. Wait for me." The little girl was out of breath. When she got closer, Yu Lily realized that they looked exactly the same. "Twins?" Oh Ming asked. "Twin girls, about 3 or 4 years old." Yu Lily was surprised and turned to look at Oh Ming. "How did you know?" Chapter 1143. Yu Lily's heart skipped a beat when she heard that. The wound that had already been buried deep was dug up again, caught off guard. Their hands were still held together. If Yu Lily moved a little, Oh Ming could clearly feel the change in her movements. With a smile, Oh Ming said, "It would be better if it were 2 girls." Oh Ming, yeah. I'm sorry. Yu Lily felt a little sad and tightened her grip on his hand. "I should have told you at the time. Those 2 children can't be kept, can they?" Oh Ming gently held her hand and said, "It's a pity that they were my first child. In the future, you have to be pregnant with at least triplets to make up for this sin." Hearing the words, triplets, Yu Lily chuckled and scolded, "Do you think I'm a pig? Then let's have 3. The first will be a girl, the second will be a boy, and the third will be twins." "That makes 4, Yu Lily said. "Well, then let's have 4. Anyway, the more the better. I don't want to have so many children." I heard that giving birth is very painful. The pain will be over soon. Just treat it as a needle prick. It's not that simple. You are indeed a straight man. Do you know how painful it is to give birth? You know? I don't want to know. It doesn't matter. Those women must have exaggerated the pain. It shouldn't be that painful. There's no smoke without fire. If it wasn't true, how could they be so sure? It's used to deceive men. Oh Ming's tone was very certain. Yu Lily glared at him and growled, straight man. Yeah, I'm a straight man. If I'm not straight, I'm gay. Oh Ming smiled and gently pulled her closer. He whispered in her ear, don't worry. I will be a straight man for the rest of my life. I will want to sleep with you anytime, anywhere. Yu Lily was angry. She pointed her finger at his cheek and said in a low voice, you are not only a straight man, but you are also a pervert. You are a big pervert. How can you say that about your man? You are challenging the authority of a straight man. With a straight face, Oh Ming moved closer to Yu Lily's face and said, the consequences will be severe, little you. Mr. O, this is a hospital. Otherwise, do you think you can still sit still? Oh Ming lowered his voice slightly, and the last syllable was so low and charming that it made people's hearts skip a beat. When Yu Lily heard that, she pushed his face away and said, you're injured to this extent, and you're still trying to act like a hooligan. You're so dedicated. That's easy. Oh Ming leaned closer and kissed her on the cheek. A hooligan doesn't forget his nature. That's a good character. Just as Yu Lily was about to retort, she found that the two little girls who had just run past them were running towards them. Yu Lily's cheeks were slightly hot as she said, there are children coming. Be careful of your image. The two twin girls giggled and chased each other. The two little fellows tossed the plush toy around, full of energy and youth. Oh Ming let go of Yu Lily and listened to the sound of the children playing. His mood improved a lot. The atmosphere in the park was peaceful and beautiful. However, one of the two little girls, who were running around happily, suddenly stopped running. She stopped, and her complexion became worse and worse. The one in front stopped, turned around, and shouted, Sister. Chapter 1144. The two children fell to the ground one after another. Their faces were pale without warning. It seemed that the two children were still trembling, and beads of sweat appeared on their foreheads. Yu Lily was shocked and said to Oh Ming, the two children don't seem to be feeling well. I'll go take a look. Okay. Yu Lily quickly walked forward. At the same time, a woman who looked to be in her 30s shouted, Nana, Lily. As he shouted, he had already run over to the two little girls. Yu Lily stopped in her tracks and looked at them. The woman's eyes were red with anxiety. She looked up at Yu Lily and pleaded, Miss, can you help me? My daughters have congenital diabetes. I have to send them to get insulin immediately. Yu Lily quickly walked forward and said, didn't you give them the insulin in advance? Quick, I'll help you carry one. Let's go together. The woman quickly nodded her head. She picked up one of the children and ran forward. Yu Lily helped carry one of the children and followed the woman to bring the children inside. Oh Ming listened to Yu Lily's footsteps and voices fade away. He sat on the bench alone, feeling a little uneasy. With his hands on his legs, Oh Ming sat where he was and listened to the children playing around and the voices of the elderly talking. His mood wasn't as good as it had been before. It turned out that the same scene was a different feeling without that person. The two children were sent to the emergency room. The mother of the children was so anxious that she spun around in circles. Yu Lily comforted her and said, it's okay. Don't be too nervous. The children are blessed by heaven. They'll be fine. Originally, the mother of the children had been relatively calm. When she heard Yu Lily's words, she immediately burst into tears and choked out, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have given birth to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have to suffer like this. Yu Lily was annoyed. She suddenly felt that the mother of the children was a little hateful. She didn't want to comfort her and said, "You can't say that. It's a blessing to have children by our side. Science is so advanced now. Even diabetes can be treated. You don't know. Back then, their father didn't allow me to give birth. They came without any warning. During the few days I was pregnant with them, I took birth control pills." Lily was stunned when she heard that. She asked, "This is the after effect?" The woman nodded with tears in her eyes. "Today, I brought them to the hospital to visit my father and to give them insulin. Who knew I would forget the time? It's all my fault." Lily patted her on the shoulder and said, "It'll be fine." Other than that, Lily found herself at a loss for words. It turned out that the consequences were so serious. After about 10 minutes, the child was declared safe and sound. Lily and the child's mother breathed a sigh of relief. After saying goodbye to her, Lily returned to the place where she had just been. Ming was still in the same place. He hadn't left or moved. Lily walked up to him and gently placed her hand on his arm. "I'm back." "Yes." Ming's expression was obviously relaxed. He held her hand and asked softly, "How is it?" "The children are fine." He looked at the time and said, "It's already dinner time. Are you hungry?" Chapter 11:45. That night, Xiao Ziqing and Huajin completed his discharge procedures. When Lily and Ming were picked up, it was already past 9 p.m. However, it wasn't the villa in Xishan, nor was it Ming's apartment. It was Huajin and Xiao Ziqing's home. The house was huge, even bigger than the villa in Xishan. It was even bigger than Ming's own apartment. This was according to Xiao Ziqing's wishes. Firstly, it was convenient to take care of the family. Secondly, it was the new year. They couldn't stay out all the time. Although they were injured, they still had to maintain the atmosphere of the new year. Considering that Ming couldn't leave Lily, Xiao Ziqing cleaned up a guest room and let him stay in. Ming hadn't showered in the past few days. He didn't even change his clothes. His mental state was much better than it had been 2 days ago. As soon as they got home, Xiao Ziqing personally went to the kitchen to cook. After Lily accompanied Ming back to his room, Ming gave her a gentle push and said, "My mom is going to cook. You go help in the kitchen." Is he asking me to ride on his coattails? Lily felt a little strange, but she knew it was only right. Apart from her relationship with Ming, she was a guest in the household. She couldn't possibly expect the host to serve her well, could she? There was nothing wrong with having some self-awareness. Lily walked to the kitchen and volunteered to help Xiao Ziqing wash the vegetables and cut the meat. After she walked in, she didn't say a word. Xiao Ziqing glanced at her and didn't say anything. She lowered her head and continued with her work. After the ingredients were processed, Lily took the initiative to boil a pot of water. She placed it on the gas stove and turned on the fire. "Do you know how to cook?" Xiao Ziqing asked from behind. Her voice was emotionless. However, Lily could clearly hear a hint of disdain in his voice. She didn't know if it was an illusion or if it was real, but she was already used to it. Even if it was real, it didn't matter. Nodding her head, Lily continued, "In the past, Ming didn't like to eat breakfast. Sometimes, he would even have lunch casually. He would often have stomach pains in the middle of the night, so I learned a few tricks." "When did you start learning?" Xiao Ziqing was behind Lily, so she couldn't see her expression. This time, Xiao Ziqing's words were a lot calmer. Lily couldn't guess what she meant by that. Lily was a little scared, but she didn't dare look back. She replied, "About 6 or 7 years ago. After I learned how to cook for him, I cooked for him for a long time. It shouldn't be too bad." Xiao Ziqing stopped talking and looked at Lily's back. She had a whole new level of respect for the girl. Could it be that this girl knew how to cook for her son? At least he knew how to behave. He knew to come to help and to show off. Although Qiao Ziqing knew her motive, she didn't feel as disgusted as before. Perhaps it was because of Old One and Old O's words in the afternoon. All right, I'll go buy some fruits. If you can do it, you can do it. Qiao Ziqing didn't stay any longer. She turned around and walked out. Yu Lily didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This woman is really rude. But, did this mean that he had started to change his opinion of her? Chapter 1146. When Yu Lily finished cooking the first dish and covered it, Qiao Ziqing returned with the fruits. Qiao Ziqing was washing the fruits at the back, and Yu Lily was cooking the soup. Neither of them spoke. The atmosphere wasn't awkward or tense, which was beyond Yu Lily's expectations. When the dishes were ready, Yu Lily brought them out and called out, "Auntie, can you ask Uncle to come out for dinner? I'll bring O Ming out." Qiao Ziqing didn't respond or make a sound. She just sat on the sofa. Yu Lily knew that Qiao Ziqing had a problem with her, so she didn't wait for her response and went into the room. When O Ming heard the sound, he knew that she was back. He asked, "How is it?" "It's time to eat. Let's go." "Did you make it?" O Ming could hear the nervousness in his voice. His uninjured hand was holding Yu Lily. His palm was sweating. Yu Lily smiled and gently patted his hand to comfort him. "Yes," she replied. "Yes. Did my mother say anything?" "She said that if I could do it, she would do it for me. She went to buy the fruits." When he heard that, O Ming's tense mood immediately relaxed. With a chuckle, he lowered his voice and said, "My mother is used to living a carefree life. She hates cooking. If it weren't for the holidays and the servants going home early, she probably wouldn't cook." More importantly, Qiao Ziqing's cooking was terrible. But O Ming couldn't reveal his mother's secret. "I see," O Ming said. It was no wonder that Qiao Ziqing didn't stand on ceremony and let Yu Lily take over. But this was also an opening for her to change Qiao Ziqing's opinion of her. She had to do this more often in the future. She led O Ming to the dining room. O Huijin and Qiao Ziqing were already seated. When he saw them, O Huijin said, "You're here." "Yeah." Yu Lily responded and pulled out the stool opposite Qiao Ziqing. After O Ming sat down, she went to wash her hands and took a wet napkin to wipe his hands. It was a small detail that Qiao Ziqing and O Huijin noticed. The couple picked up their chopsticks almost at the same time. O Huijin said, "Let's eat. It's a little late today, so don't eat too much. We'll take a walk later before going back to the room." Of course, she was referring to O Ming. Yu Lily nodded her head naturally. She didn't think there was anything wrong with it and replied, "Okay." Qiao Ziqing poured a bowl of soup for O Ming and then lowered her head to eat. O Ming's left hand was injured, but his right hand could still hold things by itself. Yu Lily placed the bowl of soup in his hand and whispered, "Be careful. It's a little hot. Don't spill it." O Ming finished the soup in a few gulps. "Did you make eggplant?" "I want to eat eggplant." "All right." Qiao Ziqing took a bite of food and subconsciously looked at O Huijin. Qiao Ziqing noticed that her husband looked equally surprised, so she lowered her head. "I didn't expect it to taste so good." Compared to what she did. It was still a little lacking. Yu Lily didn't notice the subtle changes in their expressions. She was too embarrassed to take the food and didn't dare speak. Even when she spoke to O Ming, she kept her voice low. Would such a wealthy family be very cautious about the rules of not talking during meals or sleeping? Chapter 1147. Yu Lily obediently fed O Ming and ate a little at the same time. O Huijin and Qiao Ziqing were both full. Qiao Ziqing wanted to come over and ask Yu Lily to eat, but Yu Lily politely declined. After the meal was finally over, Yu Lily led O Ming to the sofa to sit down. After cleaning up the dishes, she turned around and took O Ming out for a walk. It was late, and the wind was strong. Huijin and Xiao Ziqing lived in a villa that was rarely seen in the city. The surrounding area was bustling, and there were many people walking around at this hour. It wasn't quiet. After walking around with Yu Lily, Ming felt a little sleepy. He hadn't slept well for the past few days. Dark circles had formed under his eyes. When he heard Yu Lily yawn, Ming said, "Let's go back." Okay. However, there was no lack of neighbors who knew Ming. A middle-aged man about the same age as Huijin saw Ming and walked up to him in surprise. "Xiao O." When Ming heard the voice, he recognized the person who was speaking. He called out, "Uncle Zhao." When Uncle Zhao heard Ming's response, he finally dared to walk up and yelled, "I thought I got the wrong person. I heard that you were in a car accident recently. I didn't expect you to be so badly hurt." Uncle Zhao shook his head and walked up to Ming. What's wrong with your eyes?" If there was one thing that Ming was most concerned about and regretful about during this trip, it would be his eyes. Yu Lily was afraid that he was in a bad mood, so she quickly pulled him over and said, "Ming is injured. He can't see for the time being, but it's not a big problem." When Yu Lily said that, Uncle Zhao finally noticed her. When he saw her face, he felt very comfortable and asked, "She is my fiancée." "She's here to take care of me," Ming said. "Fiancée." Yu Lily couldn't help but look up at him when she heard those three completely unfamiliar words. Her heart suddenly raced. Even if she had 10 hearts, she would never have expected Ming to say that. Fiancé? Only when both parties' parents agree and they are engaged can they be called fiancés. What kind of fiancé is that? But, in front of an outsider, in front of an elder, Ming actually said such words, which made Yu Lily feel a little happy in the bottom of her heart. Had this man already started to take action? Uncle Zhao was also a smart person. Of course, he recognized Enchanting. Her face and figure were completely different from Enchanting's. But when he heard this, he didn't say anything. He nodded and said, "So that's how it is." "Yes, I'll invite you to my wedding." Although his eyes were empty, he seemed to be in good spirits. He said, "Uncle Zhao, if there's nothing else, we'll leave first." "Okay." Uncle Zhao responded and then watched them leave. However, as he watched them leave, he seemed to be deep in thought. What the hell? Isn't that fella's mistress? How did she become my fiancée? After bringing Ming back, Xiao Ziqing and Huijin were both sitting in the living room in their pajamas. Seeing that they had returned, Xiao Ziqing immediately came up to them and said, "Why are you so late? You have to pay attention to your rest. Next time, don't come back so late." Chapter 1148. That won't do. How can you shower now? The doctor said that your wound hasn't healed yet. It's already very difficult to discharge you. Don't be stubborn. Xiao Ziqing nagged. She had already pushed Yu Lily aside and was helping her son up the stairs. Yu Lily followed behind and heard Ming say, "It's fine. Lily can help me clean myself. Mom, don't worry about me. Go to sleep." "You." Xiao Ziqing seemed to disagree. She turned her back to Yu Lily and had no intention of avoiding her words. "She's a lady cleaning your body." "What's that?" "No matter how good your relationship with her is, she's still an outsider. Can't you be more understanding?" Outsider, she was indeed an outsider, but Yu Lily still didn't feel comfortable being called out so loudly. "She's my woman. How is she an outsider?" Ming retorted. "Mom, don't worry about it." With that, he raised his voice and said, "Yu Lily, come here." Yu Lily quickly walked over to Ming's side and said, "I'm here. Take me upstairs. After I shower, we'll sleep." "I'll do it." Xiao Ziqing held onto Ming's hand and refused to let go. She looked at Yu Lily with displeasure and said, "Although you have a close relationship, you're still an unmarried couple. What's the point of sleeping in the same room in your own house?" Your room will be for your wife to live in the future. How can you let anyone else sleep in it? Yu Lily wasn't stupid. She knew that Oh Ming's mother was hinting at her. To put it more plainly, she was pointing out that Yu Lily would never marry Oh Ming, so she couldn't sleep in Oh Ming's room. She should give up on that idea. Even Yu Lily understood, and Oh Ming was even more aware of it. Awkward, Yu Lily felt that her current situation was as if she had stuck herself to it. That feeling made Yu Lily feel disgusted. Her heart tightened and she spoke first. Auntie, Oh Ming, I didn't intend to stay here. I didn't even bring a change of clothes. I'll go back now. When she said that, it was Xiao Ziqing's turn to be embarrassed. Why did it sound like Xiao Ziqing was chasing her away? She just didn't want this woman to hang out with her son, especially in her own home. Xiao Ziqing felt extremely uncomfortable at the thought of her son being involved with such a woman. But, she hadn't thought of letting Yu Lily go. After all, she was the one who invited her to stay over and she even prepared a guest room for her. However, Xiao Ziqing could not bring herself to explain herself. Due to her personality, Xiao Ziqing was not one to speak softly. Seeing her son's face darken, Xiao Ziqing felt guilty. Oh Ming looked a little lonely. He didn't say anything. He shook off Xiao Ziqing's hand and climbed up the stairs. It was better for him to leave. He didn't have to listen to his mother's words here, and he didn't have to come here to be humiliated. Let's go, let's go. Oh Ming pursed his lips. Even if he was blind, climbing the stairs of his house was no problem at all. Soon, he went up, turned left, found his room, and slammed the door shut. Yu Lily had already walked to the door. When she heard the sound of Oh Ming slamming the door, her heart felt as if it had been hit hard by him. Chapter 1149. By the time Yu Lily got home in a taxi, it was almost midnight. She took a shower. When she came out, her phone reminded her that it was the third day of the Lunar New Year. It was the most important time of the year and the most important time to be united, but she was still alone. Yu Lily lay on the bed on top of the quilt, her whole body spread out. Sleepiness hit her, and she was exhausted. But after closing her eyes for a while, she couldn't fall asleep. There were too many things in her head, and it was too messy. It was so messy that Yu Lily couldn't sort them out. Ding dong. The phone rang. Yu Lily stayed in bed for a long time before picking it up. It was a text from Shinjilia. Happy New Year. Are you asleep? If not, call me back. Grandma missed you so much that I couldn't sleep. Yu Lily glanced at it and ignored him. After turning off the phone, she closed her eyes and lay in bed. Strangely enough, after reading the text, Yu Lily fell into a deep sleep. At 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, Yu Lily was awakened by the cold. She covered herself with the quilt and went back to sleep. When she woke up again, it was already past midnight. Yu Lily washed up and changed her clothes. She put on some light makeup and was about to go out. Just as she was putting on her shoes, the doorbell rang. Yu Lily wasn't in a hurry. She put on her shoes first and opened the door. But, it was an unexpected guest. When old Mrs. Shen saw Yu Lily, a big smile appeared on her face. Her wrinkled face was full of childishness. She looked very amiable. Lily. Old Mrs. Shen rushed toward Yu Lily and jumped like a child. Such a move didn't only scare Yu Lily. Shinjilia, who was following behind, was even more shocked. He quickly reached out to help her. Yu Lily also rushed to catch the old lady. If anything happened to her, she would be responsible for everything that happened in the house. Fortunately, both of them were steady, and old Mrs. Shen was in a good position. The two young people were scared, but the old lady was laughing and in a good mood. Why are you here? Yu Lily felt strange and shouted angrily. You're so old, and you're still going around. Is it fun? The plane is flying back and forth. If something goes wrong, don't blame me. Old Mrs. Shen was stunned by the roar. She looked up at Yu Lily with a blank expression. Shinjilia, who was standing behind, looked at Yu Lily as if he was looking at a hero. He gave Yu Lily a thumbs up in his heart. One had to know that this old man was old and had a mental problem, but in his family, he was highly respected. Old Mrs. Shen was like a tyrant in the house. Even Shen Longhua didn't dare to say anything harsh to her, let alone yell at her face to face. However, it was a good roar, a good roar. This roar was so satisfying. But it was estimated that Yu Lily would also be miserable. This old lady was very vengeful. Later, she would use her poisonous tongue to scold Yu Lily like an earthworm, wishing that she could drill into the ground. However, something unexpected happened. The old lady's face was full of grievance. She even looked at Yu Lily pitifully. Shinjilia had lived for 27 years, but he had never seen the old lady like that. Chapter 1150. The old lady looked cautious and asked, "Lily, are you angry?" When Yu Lily saw the old lady's expression, the anger and impatience in her heart immediately dissipated. Looking at the old lady, Yu Lily felt helpless and said, "Old Mrs. Shen, you're getting on in years. It's better for you to stay at home. If anything happens, not only will you suffer, but your children and grandchildren will also be worried about you." "Are you worried about me?" Old Mrs. Shen's eyes were wide open. Her eyes were a little cloudy, but at that moment, they were filled with childish anticipation. Yu Lily didn't know what to say for a moment. In all honesty, she was only worried that the old lady would cling to her again. If she couldn't leave even if she scolded her, it would be troublesome. But, who knew that the old lady would really take advantage of her? It was as if the old lady knew that Yu Lily wouldn't be able to handle her. That made Yu Lily angry and helpless. The old lady had come all the way to find her. She couldn't really scold her. When Shinjilia saw the helpless look on Yu Lily's face, he quickly tried to smooth things over and said, "That's right. Grandma, Lily is just concerned about you. I told you not to run around. I knew that Lily would be upset." Yu Lily said. When she heard Shinjilia's voice, Yu Lily laughed in anger. Without any explanation, she slapped him on the arm and shouted, "Why didn't you tell me that you were coming?" If he had told her, she would have gone into hiding. This old lady was too annoying. "Grandma said that it would be a surprise for you." Shinjilia hugged his arm and took a deep breath. "You hit me too hard. Didn't you know how to be gentler?" When Yu Lily heard that, she was so angry that she slapped him again. "Fine. I'll be gentler. Gentler. Gentler." Every word was like a heavy slap to the face. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Shinjilia quickly dodged and hid behind the old lady. But, in the end, he still felt guilty. He had been pestered by the old lady, which was why he had come to look for her. "It's your fault for not answering my calls or video calls. Grandma misses you so much that she talks about you every day." As Shinjilia spoke, he looked at Yu Lily's face. His eyes darkened as he slowly said, "And I also want to see you." When Yu Lily heard the last sentence, she lost all her confidence. Shinjilia seemed to have been dumped by her, right? "I'm so hungry. Shall we go eat?" Old Mrs. Shen acted as if she hadn't seen or heard their interaction. She touched her belly and said, "Old people can't stand hunger. Once they're hungry, they feel uncomfortable all over. Lily, let the youngest treat us to dinner." As she spoke, she came over and held Yu Lily's hand affectionately. "After dinner, let's go to the movies and go shopping, shall we?" Shinjilia felt his hair stand on end. This. Why did it feel a little horrifying coming from the old lady's mouth? "Have a meal, stroll the streets." The last time he said this, he was slapped in the face. Shinjilia felt a little resentful. He rubbed his arm, which was hurting from Yu Lily's slap, and asked old Mrs. Shen, "Grandma, what do you want to eat?" Listen to Lily. Chapter 1151. I want to eat Thai food. Curry. Savadakar. Old Mrs. Shin shouted excitedly. She dragged Yu Lily along and said, Lily, do you like curry very much? Let's go eat curry together. Yu Lily looked at Shinjilia strangely. Shinjilia shrugged and said, Grandma likes curry very much. I didn't tell her that you like it. Look, Lily and I are really connected. Jilia, lead the way. Let's go together. Old Mrs. Shin pulled Yu Lily out. Yu Lily quickly pushed her away and went inside to get her bag before they went out together. Yu Lily hadn't turned on her phone since last night. As soon as she turned it on, messages and calls came in continuously. Holding it in her hand, the phone rang for several seconds before it stopped. Shinjilia and old Mrs. Shin stared at her phone curiously. Yu Lily clicked on it and found that several of them were Shinjilia's numbers. There were also 2 unfamiliar numbers from the capital. Needless to say, they must be old Mrs. Shin's. Then, there were O Ming's number, Qiao Ziqing's number, and the landline number in Kingstown. Needless to say, they were all from O Ming. Yu Lily looked at the time. It was already 1 p.m. At this time, O Ming couldn't have eaten yet, could he? When the 3 of them got out of the elevator, Yu Lily regretted her decision and said, Why don't you go eat first? I have something urgent to deal with. As he spoke, he reached out and pulled the old lady out of the neighborhood. There's a big shopping mall about a kilometer up ahead. There's a Thai restaurant there. Shinjilia, take your grandmother there. I won't be going. How can you do that? My grandmother came all the way to find you, and you're not even willing to have a meal with her? Shinjilia looked angry and said, You're too heartless. Yu Lily felt a headache coming on and said, I really have something to do. I was just about to go out to do that, okay? Old Mrs. Shin looked a little regretful. She lowered her head and said, Then go do what you need to do. Will you go home tonight? Yes. As compensation, will you sleep with me tonight? Old Mrs. Shin looked at Yu Lily with a pair of cloudy old eyes and some expectations. When Yu Lily saw the look in his eyes, she felt even more sorry for him. She could see that the old lady really liked her. She had called several times, and now she had come all the way from the capital to play with her. If she continued to ignore him, Yu Lily wouldn't be able to live with herself. If she didn't eat with O Ming, he wouldn't be able to. Facing the expectant look in the old lady's eyes, Yu Lily finally nodded her head and said, All right, I'll see you tonight. The old lady was finally happy. With a smile on her face, she stretched out her finger to Yu Lily and said, Okay, then pinky swear with Grandma. Yu Lily was surprised. How could this old lady be? But facing her expectant eyes, Yu Lily still stuck out her finger. You have you. You. Shin smiled and said, You, Lily. You. This is called taking a step back in order to advance. You see, I can be alone with her tonight. Chapter 1152. Shinjilia sympathized with Yu Lily in his heart. When he turned his head and saw the expectant look on old Mrs. Shin's face, he suddenly felt a little strange. Could it be that Grandma has been lonely for so many years, and she wants to have a twilight romance with Yu Lily? Is it really okay for an old cow to bite on young grass? Furthermore, both of them are women. Shinjilia suddenly felt a chill run down his spine, and his whole body trembled. What a pervert. Old Mrs. Shin had no idea what her grandson thought of her. All she could think about was what was going to happen that night. When Yu Lily got into the taxi, she called O Ming. O Ming hung up the phone and didn't pick it up. Yu Lily was stunned and dialed again. The second call was answered. O Ming picked up the phone and said, I accidentally pressed the button just now. Yu Lily understood and changed the subject. Have you eaten yet? No, I'm waiting for you to eat with me. Where are you? O Ming's voice was low, and his tone was dependent. Did you just wake up? Yeah, I accidentally overslept. I'm in the car now, and I'll be there soon. After thinking for a moment, she asked, "Did you shower last night?" "No." "Did you wipe yourself?" "No." "Why?" "I couldn't wring the towel out." Oh Ming's words carried a hint of grievance. Yu Lily smiled at his pitiful words and asked, "Your mother didn't help you?" "I'm already an adult, and I still need my mother to help me shower." "What do I look like? Aren't you ashamed to let me shower?" Yu Lily was clearly not convinced. "You're my woman. It's different." The words came out naturally. Yu Lily's heart fluttered, and her lips curved up. "I'll hang up first. I'm almost there." "Okay." The car stopped very quickly. Yu Lily paid the driver and got out. After she rang the doorbell, Qiao Ziqing opened the door. When she saw that it was Yu Lily, Qiao Ziqing quietly let out a sigh of relief and rebuked, "Why are you only here now? What time is it?" Yu Lily was a little unhappy when she heard that tone, but she pretended not to hear it. She called out, "Auntie." With that, she walked straight up the stairs. "Wait a minute. Have you eaten?" Qiao Ziqing asked. Yu Lily stopped and turned her head to look at him. Qiao Ziqing came out of the kitchen with a tray and said, "Oh Ming hasn't eaten yet. He's waiting for you to eat together, so I prepared food for two." "Thank you, Auntie." Yu Lily took it and headed upstairs. Qiao Ziqing had intended to say more, but seeing Yu Lily in front of her, she had no choice but to swallow the words that were on the tip of her tongue. She felt a little dissatisfied. The door to Oh Ming's room was open. Oh Ming was sitting on the sofa next to the bed. In front of him was a table with a computer and a mobile phone. As soon as he entered, he heard the sound of the computer reading. Oh Ming's fingers flew over the keyboard, and at the same time, the computer played all the words he had typed. There wasn't a single typo in the entire row. Yu Lily clicked her tongue and said, "It's time to eat." Oh Ming's hand stopped and he turned his head. His eyes were still empty and lifeless. "Did my mom say anything to you?" "She asked me to bring food up to eat with you." "That's all?" "That's it?" "Is she supposed to say something to me?" Chapter 1153. Yu Lily blinked her eyes. She suddenly recalled Xiao Ziqing's hesitant expression earlier. So this was what he wanted to say? "However, but I don't want to." She placed the tray on a nearby table and said, "Oh Ming, when your hand gets better, I won't be coming anymore." "Why?" "Your mother hates me." She had also made it clear last night that she could not accept Yu Lily. Instead of facing her sarcasm and ridicule every day, it would be better to just not come anymore. She couldn't stand it. Oh Ming reached out with his uninjured hand. "Let's move out. Let's go back to my apartment. We'll live together." "I can't take good care of you, Oh Ming." She didn't have that right now, and Xiao Ziqing wouldn't allow it. "I want to be with you, and no one can stop me." Oh Ming held his hand up, waiting for her to hold it. Looking at his hand, Yu Lily gently pressed his hand down and said, "Let's eat." However, it was this small movement that made Oh Ming's heart suddenly turn cold. She did not hold his hand. Has it begun? She was impatient and disdainful. Had she thought it through? Did she not want to live with him, a blind man? Did she not want to marry a blind man? Oh Ming's heart felt like it was being crushed by a big stone. It was terribly heavy. Yu Lily noticed the slight change in Oh Ming's mood, and her eyes darkened. She immediately picked up the bowl and chopsticks to feed him. Throughout the meal, neither of them spoke a word. After eating, Yu Lily packed up the food and sent it to the kitchen to wash and dry. When she went upstairs, she found that the door was locked. Yu Lily couldn't open the door and was stunned. She reached out and patted him, calling out tentatively, "Oh Ming?" No response. Oh Ming leaned against the sofa and closed his eyes. He listened to the sounds coming from outside, indifferent. The knocking on the door became more and more urgent, and Yu Lily's voice became more and more anxious. "Oh Ming, what are you doing inside? Open the door. When Oh Ming heard this, he suddenly felt that it was ridiculous. What did that mean? Afraid that he would die? Afraid that he would commit suicide? Laughing at himself, Oh Ming clearly felt that his eyes were wet and hot. In the eyes of others, he was so weak. So pitiful, even if he was blind or disabled, as long as he wasn't dead, he wasn't finished. But why were all the people around her like this? His mother was like that, and so was Yu Lily. All of them sympathized with him and treated him like a cripple. She was clearly so unwilling, so why did she still come? It was only because he was crippled and threatened them by not eating. That was all, right? Sadly, Oh Ming realized that apart from being disabled, he didn't have any other weapons. Enough, Oh Ming said. His voice was not loud, but it was just loud enough for the people outside to hear. You can go back. I'll rest for a while. Yu Lily's heart ached. She knocked on the door again and panicked. I'll accompany you. Can you open the door? Let's go back. Oh Ming's voice was even lower and hoarser. At the same time, there seemed to be a hint of a smile, but there was an indescribable sorrow in it. I want to be alone for a while. Don't ever come again. This way, he wouldn't feel uncomfortable, and he wouldn't be bullied and humiliated by his mother. He was too selfish. He never thought about her feelings. It won't happen again. Chapter 1154. Yu Lily heard that something was wrong with Oh Ming. Her heart was squeezed tightly, and she couldn't breathe. Yu Lily withdrew her hand and didn't knock on the door again. Looking at the door in front of her, Yu Lily took a step back and leaned against the railing on the second floor. Xiao Ziqing saw Yu Lily leaning against the railing and asked, "What's wrong?" Yu Lily turned her head and shook her head. Then, a white light flashed in her mind, and she went forward to knock on the door and said, "Oh Ming, if you want me to leave, you have to let me pick up my things. My bag is still inside." When Oh Ming heard that, he fumbled for her bag on the sofa. Soon, he found it, picked up the shoulder strap, and groped his way to the door. His footsteps were not big, and every step was very slow. When he opened the door, Oh Ming reached out and was about to hand her the bag, but no one reached out to take it. Yu Lily looked at his empty eyes, and her eyes were sad. Yu Lily stepped forward and wrapped her arms around his waist. Oh Ming was shocked. Obviously, he didn't expect that Yu Lily would do such a thing. What's wrong? You just finished eating, and you have to be in a good mood. How can you be so bad? Yu Lily gently leaned on his chest, and her voice softened. You didn't take a bath or wipe yourself yesterday. I'll help you take a bath and wipe yourself, okay? Her voice was soft, and every word was extremely gentle. But, this was not Yu Lily. His little carp would not talk to him in such a tone as if she was coaxing a child. And she would not be so inexplicably gentle to him. That was the difference. Their attitudes clearly told him this cruel fact. He was disabled. Gently pushing her away, Oh Ming said without any expression, "Go back." As he spoke, he handed Yu Lily's bag forward and said, "I'm sleepy, and I want to sleep. Didn't you sleep well last night?" Yu Lily did not let go and gently pushed him in. "I'll go with you." I said no. Oh Ming's tone suddenly changed, and there was impatience in his anger. Are you going or not? Yu Lily was stunned by his roar. Looking at him, she couldn't believe it. Oh Ming, do you really want me to go? Let's go. Another shout rang out. Indistinctly, anger surged. Yu Lily pursed her lips and looked at him. Her breathing gradually became faster. She took the bag from his hand and said in a low voice, "I got it. I'll leave now." Oh Ming's heart was in so much pain that he was hysterical. It was as if someone had taken a knife and pried it open. Blood gushed out violently, and everything inside was blurred by the blood. Oh Ming took a step forward, but he quickly stopped. Yu Lily didn't notice his subtle movements. She turned her body slightly and said, "I'll come again when you're in a better mood." After entering the room, he slammed the door fiercely, making a loud noise. Sorrow, accompanied by such a loud noise, came surging. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring everything. Lily opened her mouth and stopped walking. Her body fell against the wall and she whimpered. Ming closed the door and locked it. When he turned around, it was still dark. There was no change at all. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.